Welcome back. In this video, we'll look at lesson 7.3 on Lambda functions in Python. Lambda functions. So the objective is that students will be capable of sorting lists with tuples by using Lambda functions. All right, so sorting dictionaries and lists with Lambda functions. The function sorted and the list method dot sort. All right, just to review real quick on these, with the function sorted, you pass in the list in the middle of the parentheses, right? So right here where my cursor is right now, sorted, open parentheses, list name, close parentheses. That creates a copy of the sorted list. So if you want to use it, you need to save it to a variable. Whereas the list method dot sort, you actually call the list name over here, right? So the list name is right here, whatever list name it may have, right? Whatever the variable name is that you have, dot sort, and you don't need to put anything in the middle because it will sort up the list that you're trying to sort here. And it modifies in place, so you do not and should not save it to a variable. Anyway, review that. If you need to review that back in, I think it might have been in week 4, lesson 4 point something in there. Actually, I can tell you exactly where it was. If I'm looking over here. Yeah, I'm not sure. Somewhere in here, dealing with lists. Anyway, that was a little review of that. So either of those can be used. One makes a copy, one modifies in place. And they both have an argument key that specifies a function to be applied to each element while sorting. And the default thing that it sorts by is the first item or element or character. So if you pass in a string, it'll sort by the first character. If you pass in a list with strings, that is, it'll sort by the first character. And if there's a tie, it'll go to the next character, right? If there's another tie, it'll go to the third character, etc. If you pass in a list of tuples, it'll sort by the first element in the 2-item tuple by default. Okay. So Lambda functions are anonymous, quote unquote, anonymous functions because they don't have, you don't have to give them a name. And because they're usually immediately thrown away after use. And they're often used for sorting, like we'll use here. Okay, you may think, okay, why do you need a function if you don't need it right after you use it? Well, in some situations, you have to pass in a function as an argument to a parameter. So like, for example, here, the key argument in the sorted function and the dot sort method have a key argument and they take a function. So you need to pass in a function. But if you only need to do it just that one place, you don't need to save the function for other use, then a Lambda function is where that would be handy. So while you could actually supply a function that you create with the def keyword, as we've done in the past, right? Jumping back to lesson where did I show you how to define your own function? Right there. Lesson 4.1 is how you define your own functions, right? Function. And you use the def keyword to define a function. While you could do that, it's quicker and there's less, keystrokes if you use a Lambda function. It's usually the case. All right. So in order to sort a dictionary, you must first create a list or a list-like object with tuples, right? Each thing is a tuple, and within each tuple you have two things. You have what was once the key in the dictionary and what was previously the value in the dictionary, right? So here's an example. Let me just grab this little bit of code right from my lesson plan and put it into PyCharm here, my little digital keyboard. I just want to walk through this first real quick. So here on line 2, I'm creating a dictionary, right? I have curly braces. Those are curly braces right there. And then I have my first item. The key is a string, Lydia. Then we have a colon separating the key and the value. And then the value is an integer, 12. And then a comma separates the first item from the second item, right? This is all a dictionary. So I'm going to call it fam_dict. Just keep in my mind, this is a dictionary. Okay. Good. And then this returns a dict items object, which is like a list with tuples, right? We can just print these out one by one so you can see what's happening on each step. So here's a family dictionary. And here, let's print this out. This is a family list. And then this sorts them, so I'll let that sort. This is gonna sort by the second thing. It's gonna sort by, therefore, age. It's gonna sort by the second thing of each tuple. So let me run this little bit of script. And let's just look through this. Okay, so there's my dictionary, right? So that's line 3 here on my code up here, it printed that. And then I convert it to a list or list-like object to be very technical. You know, we could actually use the list function right around what we get back here, and this should work as well. Let me just double check that. Yeah. So this is a list this time, actually. Down here where I have highlighted in the console, right? It has square brackets, whereas the dictionary had the curly braces. And then we use the Lambda function right here within the sorted call. Sorted is a function, right, to sort our list. So here's the list that's going to sort, and then we pass in this argument key, and then we pass in the Lambda space some variable name. I use X here just to be very concise, colon, and then I say, hey, whatever I give you as X, just give me the second element of it. So when it's looking at each 2-item tuple, I want to get back the second item. So that is, I want to get back, I want you to sort by, that is, I want you to sort by the age, not the person's name. And that's what happens here. So it's sorted by age. So we have Eve, 9 years old, Hannah, 11, Lydia, 12, etc. All the way up to my wife, who is actually older than me, as you can see there. So that's how it goes. That's what we can do. Now this step here of actually converting to list on line 6, it's not necessary. We can do so, but just to show you it's not necessary, I'll just take away that and rerun the whole script. And so now it's called a dict items structure right here, but it's working like a list, and it sorts correctly as well when we do the sorting here. So, and sorted actually returns a list. You can see that actually it's a list, doesn't have dict items right before that list. Okay. So if you'd like to pause the video and try this, just copy and paste this little bit of code in my lesson plan in lesson 7.3 here on Lambda functions. Try it, give it a try. And if you'd like to do that, go ahead and pause the video now and give this little bit of code a try on your computer. Okay. Like I mentioned, mind the zero baseness of Python. So an actual index of 1 into a list is the second thing. So when we have a 2-item tuple, right, coming out of this function, the second thing actually has an index of 1. A little confusing, but that a lot of programming languages do that. Others don't, but others have a 1-based indexing. Okay, so the following two function definitions create the same function. So here's the normal way of defining a function, right? We have the def keyword, space, name of function, open parentheses, any arguments that get passed in, closing parentheses, colon, new line, indentation, and then the body of the function definition, right? In this case, we're saying, okay, whatever is passed into this function, just return back the second element of it, right? Again, Python is a zero-based language, and so the 0 index is the first thing. The second thing has an index of 1. So this simply says, whatever I give you, give me back the second thing of it. This could be defined this way as well. This is kind of weird to name it. You wouldn't use, it's kind of weird to use a Lambda keyword and then name it. Usually do a function definition with def, but this works too, right? And so we say, okay, this function name is going to be second element equals Lambda. Whatever I give you as X, some variable name, colon, give me back the second element of X, of whatever I give you. That's how you read this. Okay. So anyway, like I say, you usually don't save this to a variable name. You just use it right where you need a function that's very short to write, like this. Okay. So let's try some practice here. Create a dictionary with the ages of your family, like I do in the example above. Convert it to a list with tuples with the list function and print to screen. Okay. So yeah, you are going to actually do this where you pass in the dictionary name dot items, open close parentheses. You pass all that into list to coerce it or convert it to an actual list. Right, you don't need to, but you can. So I should do that. All right, so pause the video and try that. Create a dictionary with the ages of your families and convert it to a list with tuples with the list function, then print that list to the screen. That shouldn't take too long. Ready, set, go for it. All right, let's take a look on how I do that. And I think I do more here than I even ask you to do. I basically what I have here is from the example is it. I mean that's it, right? Just print it. Actually, this doesn't need to happen yet. This right here is doing what I asked you to do in the exercise. Create a dictionary, convert it to a list after you call the dictionary method dot items, and then print that out. So let me just run that code, show you that that's what it does. Yep. So now we have a list down here. It's been pulled out of the dictionary into a list, and each element of that list is a tuple. And within each tuple, we have two elements. We have element 0 or index to 0, right? Index of 0 is a string, name of the person, and the second element in this tuple has an index of 1, and that's an integer, the age. So there you go. That's how I do this first practice exercise. If you'd like to pause the video and do that, go ahead. Okay. Sort the list by names and print to screen. So we'll do that first one right there. Sort the list by names and print to screen. So give that a try. Use the sorted function if you like. That is one way, probably the easier of the two ways. Using the sorted function, you pass in the sorted function into the sorted function, you pass the list and nothing else. Okay, so give a try on that. Pause the video and see if you can do that. Sort the list by names and print to screen. All right. So we could break them out by key value pairs, but we could also just let it go like this. And so really, I'll just go and say print, or I could do, yeah, I'll do print sorted family list at this point. Run that script. So all I did is I just put sorted around the family list that came out of line 6. So the first print statement that happens on line 7 is printing this. Lydia, 12, Earl, 43, Eve, 9, etc. And then line 8 here, print sorted family list, prints the second thing here in the console, Earl, 43, Esther, 15, Eve, 9, Hannah, 11. Right, so how did it sort? What did it sort by here? If you want to pause the video and look at what I have highlighted there on the console down here at the bottom of my screen, figure out what did it sort by. Yeah, it's sorted by the first element. So the default is by the first element. So EA comes before ES, which comes before EV, which comes before H, before K, before L, and before S, right? So it's sorted by the first thing. Now we could have explicitly said to do so That's the default. If I say key equals lambda, if I give you something, give me the first thing back, right? So I index into the 0 thing of the thing I give it. What I'm giving it is a tuple, 2-item tuple. And I say 0, that means sort by the first thing. This should give me the same result. Let me just rerun the script to see if that really is the case. Yeah, it really is the case that it's sorting by default by the first of the 2 elements in these tuples. So it's looking at Earl, Esther, Eve, Hannah, Christy, Lydia, and Seth. And it's sorting among those. It moves the whole tuple with the corresponding ages around, right? Okay. So if you'd like to pause the video and look at that, a little bit of code, go ahead and do so now. And then it says again, sort again, but this time by age and print to screen. Okay. So give it a try. Figure out what you need to change in the code we just looked at and what you should hopefully put it on your computer and sort by age this time. Ready, set, give it a try. All right. So what do we need to do? Well, if this function right here, this lambda function, sorts by the first of the 2 items in each tuple, that is the name string. If we want to sort by the second thing, we need to change the index to the second thing, which has an index of 1. Right? So this says, if I give you something, give me back the second thing, which has an index of 1 in Python, right? And let me go ahead and run this little bit of code and see what happens. Yep, there we go. So 9, 11, 12, 15, 16, 43, and 45. Right, so now it's sorted the tuples by the second element, that is the age. Okay. If I like to pause the video and look at that, please do so now. I will point out that in my solution file, I do something a little bit more involved. Let me just grab this little bit of code there. Come down here. And I did a little bit more involvedly because here I sort it into a dict items object, which is like a list, right? This space is optional there. This space, I'm trying to get to right there where my cursor is optional. You can have a space there or not. So yeah, I'm calling sorted on this thing that came out right here. It still is a list actually. And then I'm putting it into a for loop and I'm actually indexing, or I'm using variables K and V to get down into the 2-item tuple. So K would be Hannah, V would be 11, right? And so it would look all the way down into the strings in the 2-item tuple within the larger list. And again, I'm sorting it by, I can sort it here by age. Let me just run this little bit of code. There we go. So let me scroll up here. I have quite a few print statements going on here. Let's just look at all these. So here I print out the family list right there. That's what gets printed: Lydia, Earl, Eve, Christy. Then I sort by the age. So then I get Eve 9, Hannah 11, Lydia 12, etc. And then I do the same thing here. Line 8 and line 11 are pretty much the same thing, right? 8 just prints it out to the console. 9 creates a variable called fam list. It resaves it back to its same variable name, fam list. And then I go into a for loop here, and I use K and V to index all the way down into the 2 elements of each tuple. That is the name as a string and the age as an integer. And then I just concatenate those into a nice little string here. Again, I have to coerce that integer to a string so I can concatenate it with the other strings over here. And then we get this nice little printout. Each line has a different person and their age: Eve, Hannah, Lydia, and they're all sorted by age, by the second element or the second element in each two element tuple. Eve 9, Hannah 11, etc. Okay. So the only difference there between I just showed on the video a second ago, this right here, and what I have in the solution file is I just put into a for loop, and I index all the way down into the name and age as key, what were formerly key values. If you want to stop the video and look at that little bit of code here and make it work on your end, you should do so now. All right, now the last one is a little bit more involved, because this time I want you to write it out. Well, two things. I want you to reverse the order so that it's in reverse order by age. Okay, so sort the list by age in reverse order. So go with the highest age person as the first row on your resulting CSV file, and write it out to a CSV file as the second thing. Okay, so you need to look up the reverse argument of the function sorted. Right, so if I just simply go Python sort reverse, just search for those terms like that, Python sort reverse. And I'll choose this Stack Overflow. Stack Overflow is a good site for question and answers about coding. And it says, how can I sort this list in descending order? We have a list with a bunch of strings, right? These are strings. You can see the double quote there around each string. And let's just jump down. So they show you actually right here. In one line using Lambda, which we just saw, right? Key equals Lambda space some the argument variable. What I want to show you is way down here though. There's a reverse argument to sort it and sort. And so the default is false. And so if you don't specify anything to reverse, it'll default to false, like don't reverse the order, do it in ascending, regular order from lowest to highest. But if you say reverse equals true, then it will do from highest to lowest. That is in descending order. So this is being passed into the sorted, the sort list method here, but there's also one for sorted. Okay. So anyway, take a few minutes to see if you can make this work. Ready, set, pause. All right, let's take a look on how I approach this little exercise. I'm just going to erase all the stuff we don't need at this point. This is getting a little bit messy here. I'm just going to just put that in there. Okay, let's look at our code here. So on line 2, I create a dictionary, right, with name and age. The key is a string name. The value is an integer age. Got it. We're going to sort by age, but in reverse order, and write to a CSV file. And you can see that there's a red squiggly line on line 5 that PyCharm is saying, hey, I don't see where fam_list is because I just erased it. So there's a couple ways to deal with this. You could come up here and say, okay, I need to create something called fam list. And this is a dictionary, so I can call the items element like that. Right, and that would work. It creates a dict items object, which is like a list that gets passed into line 6 there. Right, you could just simply, another even probably quicker way is just to put dot items right there and not even worry about this line. Just go ahead and, I'll actually change this to dict right there. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and just do it this more verbose way. More verbose like that. I'm going to create a new thing called fam list, which is a little bit of a misnomer because it's actually still a dict items object here, but it can be treated like a list, and that's what sorted will do. Okay, so on sorted in line 6, I passed in 3 things. I have the collection I'm passing in, which came from the dictionary, and I changed it into a dict items object here on line 4. The second argument is the key argument. I say key equals lambda space some variable name. I'm going to use X because it's short, colon, And then what I want you to do with that is I want to get the second thing back. That is, I want you to look at the second element, ages. And then the third argument to sorted is reverse equals true. And let me just show you that. Just kind of go one step at a time. Let me just show you what's going to happen after that point. Let me comment that out for the moment so it doesn't run. I just want to show you that line 7 of my script should return back this list down here with the tuples sorted by the second element, that is age, in reverse order. So 45, Christy 45, Earl 43, Seth 16, Esther 15, etc. Yep, they worked correctly. So it sorted the tuples looking at the second element of each tuple, but in reverse order. Good, so that came out correctly. This reverse equals true worked. This lambda function worked there. Okay, now the second part of the exercise is to write out to a CSV file. And so this is how we could do that, right? Again, we're going to open up a file connection on line 8 to an out file that I decided to call ages.csv, put it into my downloads. The second argument should be W. Again, this is mode, just to be very explicit here. Mode equals W. As some variable name, I'll use f out for file out, colon, new line break, indentation, and then I'm going to make a header in that CSV file. So the first row has person, tab, age, new line break. Okay. And then here on line 10, I'll jump into a for loop and loop over this list here. And so I want to get down into the string, which is a name, and the integer, which is an age, which were formerly key and values, right? These were formerly key value pairs up in the dictionary that we create up here, right? That's the key and that's the value. So I'll just go ahead and use KV to represent, in my mind, key value in this list that we created right here. And then we will write out to the out file connection, which I named f out up here, dot write, and then I need to string concatenate these into a nice little string. K already is a string, right? Already is a string, so we can see those double quotes around it, plus a tab. So concatenate, for example, in the first one, Christy to tab, and then concatenate that to a string version of V, which is an integer. So we need to push that to a string so we concatenate it with the other strings, and then concatenate that to a new line break with the \n. So if I run this little script, let's see what happens. No errors. It says exit code 0, so that's good. And there's the print, what I printed out on line 7. But I should have in the downloads directory of my computer a CSV file called ages. Let's jump over there and look at my downloads directory. And yeah, there it is, ages. And if let's see if I double click now, it should open up into LibreOffice. Good. And I kind of did it quickly. Let me do it again. I need to specify here. I just need to double check that I'm using the tab separator. Separator option is tabbed, is a tab. All right, if I were to use comma, it wouldn't work out correctly. So this is a tab, right? So let me just go ahead and open that up. And yep, there they are in reverse order based on age. That's my family. So there you go. If you'd like to take a look at this little script, you can pause the video now or look at it in my solution file. Okay. So that brings us to a conclusion of this lesson, lesson 7.3. At this point, you should be able to sort lists with tuples by using Lambda functions, or at least see how you can do it and review this video to really get it down and get it memorized, or at least know where you need, what video you need to look at, what lesson you need to look at to do that, and what it does. What is Lambda function? How can you use it to sort the list? Okay. As always, I'm super happy to help with any questions you have during my office hours. Otherwise, we'll see you next time.